and for the international order that we have worked for generations to build. Ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs. That order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign.
These are the same folks oftentimes who suggest that they're so tough that just talking to Putin or staring down ISIL or using some additional rhetoric somehow is going to solve the problems out there. But apparently they're scared of widows and orphans coming into the United States of America as part of our tradition of compassion.
Online or offline, the bottom line is that we are in a contest of ideas against an ideology of hate, and we have to win. Let's be clear, though. Islam is not our adversary. Muslims are peaceful and tolerant people and have nothing whatsoever to do with terrorism.
Now let's make two things clear. ISIL is not Islamic. No religion condones the killing of innocents.
غدا سأفأر وستشهد ساحات الوغى وأخيرا لا نقول لك أبي وداعا بل إلى اللقاء.
شو اليهود اللي طخوا بابا ايش بدك تسوي لهم؟
بدي اقتلهم.
زي ما قتلوا بابا.
احنا بدنا نطردهم بس من ارضنا.
بدنا احنا نذبحهم يا سرة عشان يتشردوا من ارضنا اكيد.
ما هو بدنا يعني نطردهم من ارضنا.
ما هو اذا ما ردوش بالسلام ولا بالكلمه ولا بالحدوته لازم بنشخ.
مفهوم الشهاده له انتماء لوطنه من ناحيه عقيده دينيه، عم بضحي من اجل وطنه في سبيل انه الحصول على الشهاده والوصول للجنه وملاقاه ربه. وهذا احسن شيء احنا عم بنربي كمان اطفالنا للمحافظه على الوطن والانتماء للوطن والوصول للشهاده.
حكيت عن الشهاده كشيء جميل، انت بتعتقد انه شيء جميل؟
الشهاده كثير شيء جميل جدا جدا، كل الناس بتتمنى الشهاده.
ايوه،
لانه يعني ايش في احلى من انك تروحي على الجنه.
طب مين افضل، السلام مع وجود حقوق كامله للشعب الفلسطيني ولا الشهاده؟
الشهاده. اخذ حقي بعدين استشهد، لانه بدنا نعيش احنا طفولتنا حياتنا.
To share a short message with people listening that will watch this, whether in America or Andrea or Jewish people, what would you like to tell them?
Mainly Americans, God Almighty has given you the grace. Whatever you do in America influences everybody in the world. You have that grace. One thing that Islam is doing to defeat you is causing you to be coward and fearful, to stand up and speak against the invasion of Islamization which is going on in your country. Stand up before it's late. North Africa is the part of Africa which first embraced Christianity. It was defeated by intimidation and threat. If you get afraid today, within time you will find your children and your grandchildren being Muslims and torturing other people. Stand up now and defeat the challenge of the global Islamization agenda. And that is what I'm telling even Christians. We speak as Christians today, talk about places like Ephesians, the letter of Paul to Ephesians. What is Ephesians right now? Check the place and see. They don't have a church. Check the place of the church of Antioch. Where was it? Check the places of all these places where Simon Peter and preached the gospel. Paul went on with his missionary journeys. You will find that Islam has got a challenge which is on a door, and instead of standing up, we are not going to stand up in arms, but we are going to stand up in the word of God. Let's not fear to open up and stand and speak the truth. Otherwise, if we don't stand now, it will be too late within coming years. One thing which I want to leave with you, all of people watching me, is that if you know that what you are doing is right, stand boldly and proclaim it. Don't fear. The spirit of darkness use intimidation. Don't be intimidated. People fear to die, but Jesus said, do not fear those who kill the flesh. He knew they would try to kill us. And Jesus said, whatever message I give you underneath the bed, stand at the roof and declare it. That means Jesus knew that we will be intimidated, and he did not tell us only to run, but he said, don't fear them. The word don't fear is more clear in the book of Matthew chapter 10. And when Peter was persecuted and intimidated, what happened? Bible says he was scourged in the book of Acts of the Apostles. He was beaten. But Peter said, I cannot stop to speak what I have heard and what I have seen. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a high time. If it is the truth, let's stand and speak it. If we are the light of the world, it's the time we shine before it's late. God bless you. Thank you very much.
I got to get one more thing, because that was very powerful. We're going to show this to a lot of Jewish people in America. What's your challenge to Jewish people to support Israel?
The Jewish people, I am a former Muslim. Have no doubt about that. I hated Israel even before knowing where it is found on a map. The challenge between the fight and the hatred against Israel is more so of a religious motivated thing than a political. You must know there are some people standing somewhere in the places of worship brainwashing people that the nation of Israel has no right to exist. When you give them Gaza, they will need East Jerusalem. You give them East Jerusalem, they will need Jerusalem. You give them Jerusalem, they will take Tel Aviv. You will have no state. What I'm saying is that don't sell your land for peace. Stand and resist the evil. Stand with your nation. You must have a nation. I was a Muslim. I'm speaking the truth. The teaching of Islam does not see Israel on the map. They don't teach that there is a nation called Israel. So for every child who is coming up, he's working for the destruction of this nation. There are a few others who are not, but they are working for this destruction. So you give them a leg, they will take a waist, and you give them a waist, they will take a chest, and then they will take a head. Let's stand for the truth. If it is truth, stand for it, and the God of the Bible will defend your land.
Where there are significant Muslim immigration is the crime rate, especially the disproportional sexual crimes against the host country's women. In Sweden, which does not usually report the nationality of rapists, a just-released study by Swedish police revealed that Muslim men, who constitute only 2% of the population, are responsible for 78% of the rapes. Once peaceful Sweden has the highest rape rate in Europe, the second highest in the world, next to South Africa. And it's not just Sweden. It's not just Germany. It's also Copenhagen.
It is a case described as simply shocking by the police, the biggest case of serial sex abuse ever investigated. Tonight, a gang of 5 men from Derby has been convicted of systematically grooming and sexually abusing teenage girls. The leaders of the gang are said to be Abid Mohammed Sadiq and Mohammed Rahman Liaquat, both married with children. This CCTV footage shows their gang preying on young girls on a street in Derby. These girls walked away, but another 26 came forward to say they'd been the victims, the youngest of whom was 12. Many of the victims were given alcohol or drugs before being forced to have sex in cars, rented houses, or hotels across the Midlands. One girl described a sexual assault involving at least 8 men. 13 men were charged in relation to the case known as Operation Retriever. 9 have been convicted of offences ranging from rape to false imprisonment.
De koffers zitten ons in de weg.
Wie zijn het precies?
Dat zijn de ongelovigen, de mensen die niet in, bijvoorbeeld niet in de islam geloven.
Wat doen die mensen verkeerd?
Die mag ik niet. Ik weet niet wat ze verkeerd doen.
Wat ze eigenlijk verkeerd doen, heel makkelijk gezegd,
Ze aanbidden Allah niet.
En wat vinden jullie van de Nederlandse vrouwen die zich gemiddeld kleden?
Helemaal niks. Het hoort ook niet volgens ons geloof. Ik vind het helemaal niks.
Nee?
Nee.
Vind je het zelf niet stiekem wel een beetje leuk om te zien?
Walgelijk.
Hoe moet
Je mishandelen, ja.
Soms zie ik inderdaad islamitische mensen die benaderen wij met camera en microfoon. En die zijn vaak heel bang of die reageren agressief, die willen niet gefilmd worden. Hoe denken jullie dat dat komt?
Het komt meestal omdat bijvoorbeeld, kijk, je ziet meestal op Po-nieuws, ze bewerken alles bewerken ze. Snap je? En ja, ik vind het terecht. Dus de media
doet alles over de islam, over alles over de islam. Doen ze bewerken bijvoorbeeld de ongelovigen, wil die moslim bijvoorbeeld steken. En dan bewerken ze dat het andersom is gaan, dat de moslim de kofar wil steken.
Uiteindelijk waar het op neerkomt, er moet gewoon een dawlatul khilafa zijn. Een islamitische staat waar een moslim gewoon goed kan leven volgens de islamitische regels. Verder hebben wij niks nodig, dat is het enige wat wij nodig hebben.
Dan zou ik me moeten bekeren tot de islam? Als ik daar woon, ja.
Als iets nu binnenkomt en schiet ons dood, is hun schuld niet. Want wij leven hier in de kofferstaat. Hoe moet ik dat zeggen? Tenminste, dat is onze schuld dan niet. Dus hun worden daar niet voor bestraft, wij worden daarvoor bestraft.
Okay.
Dus, maar laatste wat ik wil zeggen.
Ja, laatste.
Bekeren tot de islam allemaal. Allemaal meisjes gedragen jullie door normaal kleren aan. Ja. En
ik heb nog
wat nummer 06 112 Wi'ash, ja.
Vernieuwing gaat naar de hel, naar het vuur. Ja, naar het vuur. Dus
Free Palestina. Ja. Okay, dank jullie wel.
Humanity has been grappling with these questions throughout human history. And lest we get on our high horse and think this is unique to some other place, remember that during the Crusades and the Inquisition, people committed terrible deeds in the name of Christ.
Whenever you're dealing with an apologist for Islam, or even a Muslim, and you bring up jihad, almost immediately they kick back to you, well, what about those terrible Crusades? Why, they're the moral justification for jihad. I mean, we're just as bad as they are, so let's not talk about jihad, okay? Let's talk about the Crusades. Well, what I would like to talk about here are facts. And it turns out I sat down and put together some work, and I created a database of some 548 battles that Islam fought, jihad battles against classical civilization. And this aren't even all the battles. It really doesn't say much about Africa and India, Afghanistan and all that. It's primarily the battles against the classical civilization of Rome and Greece. So, 548 battles is a lot, and it's too much to even comprehend. So I created something which I call a dynamic battle map, in which you have a display of the Mediterranean, and a white dot means that this 20-year period, that's a new battle. So every time the screen changes, it's 20-year period. The colors white turn to red, and so you can see a history. This may seem a little confusing, but I think when you see it, you'll know exactly what I mean. And here it starts. Islam burst out of the Arabian Peninsula and immediately starts attacking the Middle East. And notice that it doesn't take long until they're crossing the Mediterranean and attacking southern France and Spain. Notice something here. Most people think of Islam, they think of Arabs, they think of desert, and yet here we see that Islam is projecting power throughout the Mediterranean. Notice how the little islands of the Mediterranean are getting hammered. The navy of Islam would attack coastal towns, kill, rob, rape, and then take slaves. So this whole battle map, as it unfolds, you're seeing slaves being taken. Over 1 million slaves were taken out of Europe into the Islamic world. That's something you don't think about much, but it's absolutely true. There were over 200 battles fought in Spain alone. And we also see, however, on the east coast in Turkey, that Islam is trying to break into Europe. Now, what's going to happen is, in Spain, this ongoing fight that lasted for 400 years, the Christians are going to push back the Muslims. But now then what has happened over in the East is that Constantinople has fallen, and now then Eastern Europe is getting hammered. The jihad now comes to Eastern Europe. It's pushed out now of Spain. Northern Africa is now completely Islamic. The Middle East is completely Islamic. This is all jihad, relentless jihad. And why is it so relentless? Well, Muhammad was relentless in his jihad. And these people are good students of Islam, and so it's against the kafir, on and on. It was traditional that when the Sultan came to power, the brand new Sultan, he would immediately try to launch new wars because he was going to be noted in his Islamic history as to how well he fought against the kafir. So that's what the jihad looked like over that time period, 548 battles. But remember, when you bring up jihad, people want to bring up the Crusades. So I also prepared a dynamic battle map of all the offensive raids of the Crusaders. Let's watch it and make a comparison. And so it begins. The Crusades enter into Turkey and the Middle East. Battles go on, but aren't there far fewer than you thought there might be? And here we go. The last battles are fought, and that is the end of the Crusades. So now then we can talk about some facts. Yes, there were Crusades, but notice they ended centuries ago, and jihad is being practiced today. Jihad has been with us for 1,400 years. There is no comparison between jihad and the Crusades, certainly not a moral comparison. And when you're looking at the Crusades, remember, in one sense, all of the Crusades were defensive wars. Why? Well, as we saw on the first jihad map, it was Islam that came out of Arabia and conquered the Middle East, a Christian Middle East. And so the Crusaders were trying to free their Christian brothers and sisters from jihad. So there's no moral comparison at all. The motivation of the Crusaders was to free Christians. The purpose of jihad is to enslave the kafir. So the next time you hear somebody talk about, oh, those dreadful Crusades, you've seen some facts about the matter. Why don't you pipe up and tell them you know, you don't really know the matter.